Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, a senior Israeli military official tells TV7 that Hamas attempts to exacerbate the friction with the IDF as the internationally recognized terror group is wary of the deadlock in Egyptian broker negotiations for a long-lasting ceasefire with Israel. U.S. President Donald Trump reportedly offers the Palestinian leadership $5 billion in exchange for a comprehensive peace deal that aims to end the decades-old conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. The finance ministers of Britain, France, and Germany are reportedly working to establish a financial mechanism on behalf of the European Union, which will allow for continued free trade with Iran despite U.S. sanctions. A pipe bomb was thrown toward IDF soldiers early this morning near the Israeli border with the Gaza Strip, prompting the Israeli troops to respond with live fire in the direction of 3 Palestinians that were identified crawling along the border's security fence. No injuries were reported among the Israeli forces, and it remains unclear whether the Palestinian suspects were hit. The incident comes just one day after the IDF identified and neutralized an explosive device that was located near the border security fence in the southern Gaza Strip, which, according to the IDF spokesperson's unit, was planted by a Palestinian terror cell with the aim of targeting Israeli security forces. A senior military official told TV7 that the 2 incidents, along with several violent events, indicate attempts by Hamas to exacerbate the friction with the IDF, as the internationally recognized terror group is wary of the deadlock in Egyptian broker negotiations for a long-lasting ceasefire with Israel. The official further stressed that the IDF will use all the tools in its disposal within the boundaries of the rules of engagement dictated by Jerusalem to assure the security and sovereignty of the State of Israel. Furthermore, the Israeli military views the Islamist Hamas organization, which controls the Palestinian enclave, as solely responsible for any terror activities that emanate from the Gaza Strip. Now in other news, U.S. President Donald Trump reportedly offered the Palestinian leadership $5 billion in exchange for a comprehensive peace deal that aims to end the decades-old Israeli-Palestinian conflict. According to the Israeli financial daily Globes, an American offer of $5 billion will be matched by the European Union and donor Gulf states, a figure that is based on a series of development plans for the Palestinian economy across the West Bank and Gaza Strip. According to a Trump administration official who spoke to the Globe's Daily on condition of anonymity, the American message is clear: either the Palestinian Authority continues to refuse and therefore drown in an acute economic crisis, or the leadership returns to its senses, sits down and talks, and therefore gains political and economic independence. A U.S. official told TV7 that the report of an American aid package was indeed under review, but a specific figure was not yet agreed upon. The official noted, however, that the ultimate peace plan on the foundation of a regional approach was awaiting the approval of President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department rejected the report on any financial package, referring to the Globe's Daily's report as simply untrue. When asked on whether the Trump administration remains committed to a 2-state solution, U.S. State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert stressed that the Trump administration would support whatever both sides can come to an agreement on.
The president has said consistently that he supports a solution that both parties can work with, recognizing that both parties will have to compromise in order to come to some sort of an agreement. So we support whatever both sides can work with, can come to an agreement on.
Now it further asserted that while challenges to bring about a viable peace agreement would not be an easy task, considering the fact that for 70 years so many governments have tried and failed, the Trump administration is determined that a new approach would be the only way to force the 2 sides to hold substantive negotiations.
The conflict has been going on. The disagreements have been going on for 70 years. A very, very long time. Nothing has worked, despite the U.S. government and other governments' best efforts, right? Nothing has worked thus far. This administration has determined that it desires to take a different kind of approach in encouraging 2 sides to sit down and have that conversation. It's something we'll not back away from, recognizing that it's certainly not going to be easy. We've seen that, but we remain committed to that.
In related news, President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy Jason Greenblatt revealed last night that the Trump administration was bracing itself for Israeli criticism vis-à-vis some elements of its peace deal, yet refused to provide additional details. In an interview with the Reuters news agency, Greenblatt noted that American negotiators had entered into the phase before the inauguration of the Israeli Arab Peace Initiative, in spite of a boycott from Palestinian leaders. That said, Trump's Middle East envoy refrained from offering a time frame and sufficed by saying that the plan would not be announced at the United Nations General Assembly this month and that both sides would find things they'd like and don't like about it. Now, in other news, the finance ministers of Britain, France, and Germany are reportedly working to establish a financial mechanism on behalf of the European Union that will allow for continued free trade with Iran, that despite international sanctions that were reimposed on the Islamic Republic's economy by the United States. According to reports published in the German media this morning, the European Union intends to bypass European commercial or national banks, which fear the consequences of doing business with Iran after the American sanctions come into force in November. By doing so, the EU will allow Iran to continue exporting oil and gas, the largest source of revenue for the Islamic Republic, in exchange for Tehran's continued adherence to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which is the technical term for the 2015 nuclear agreement. According to the reports, the European powers are considering the option of setting up a special purpose vehicle in which all EU member states will be shareholders and that they will not be exposed to international sanctions because those special purpose vehicles will not conduct business with the European Investment Bank. It is important to note that while EU governments are attempting to bypass the American sanctions, Central European banks have made it clear that they will not be able to continue transferring funds to Iran after the start of U.S. sanctions because they conduct business in the United States and are using U.S. currency. Now to another matter, the former U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has confirmed his continued discussions and meetings with top Iranian officials, including his former counterpart, Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif. The former Obama administration official has reportedly provided advice to the Iranian government to counter the policies of the United States. The revelation prompted President Donald Trump to release a statement on his Twitter account in which he slammed Kerry for meeting with officials of a very hostile Iranian regime after he left his post as the Secretary of State, calling his actions illegal. Furthermore, State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert called on the former Secretary of State to give the Iranian government advice on how to stop its terror-related activities around the world.
He is apparently providing, according to reports, advice to the Iranian government. I think probably the best advice that he should be giving the Iranian government is stop supporting terror groups around the world, stop supporting Hezbollah. If anything, he should be calling on the Iranian government to stop spending money on all this adventurism and terrorism around the world and start spending their money on their own people, as we've seen so many Iranian people express their serious concerns about this kind of military adventurism.
In contrast to the Obama administration, Nauert stressed that the Trump administration no longer looks at the Iranian government just through the narrow scope of the nuclear agreement, but rather deals with the Islamic Republic on all of its bad actions around the world in fomenting terror and causing so much misery, including in their own country. Meanwhile, a senior American official told TV7 that Kerry's actions may constitute treason, as the former Secretary of State clearly and openly provides an enemy state with aid and comfort, which provides legal grounds for his conviction based on Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution. Thank you for watching us, praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. Jonathan Hassan, Erev Tov and Shabbat Shalom. We will see you again on Monday at the same time.